Hey everyone, it is Sean here, and welcome to our first ever special on Dinner with Racers. If you are listening in chronological order, you've just heard Jeff Brown speak about a number of projects he was involved in, a number of great stories. One thing that was conspicuously missing, however, was any stories about Level 5, which was a racing team he worked with for several years. And that is because he had a handful of stories that were so amazing we decided to pull those out and put them in their own special. So, if you don't know the history and the story of Level 5 Motorsports, we're not really going to get into it in this series. We're more interested in some of the projects that they worked on. If you want to know more about Level 5, definitely recommend you look them up to just sort of understand the variety of stories that led into the formation of the team and the people behind it. But for our sakes, we're going to get into some of the crazy projects that they got involved in. Most notably, the first 40 minutes is dominated by their D Sports Racer program. Now, if you don't know what a D Sports Racer is, that is a division of the Sports Car Club of America, the SCCA, and a category that's sort of meant for the garage racer, if you will, the sort of person that's doing it as sort of a fun hobby. But having never raced SCCA myself, I don't think it's fair for me to get into it. So we decided to call a good friend of ours, Andrew Davis, who just won the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge GS category championship. And we decided to have kind of Andrew explain what D Sports Racers were all about. So here's a quick call with Andrew.
Hello.
Andrew Davis,
Hey, John Heckman.
how is the good life?
Oh, the life is good. How about yourself?
I'm going to just lie and say everything's awesome.
There you go. That's the same thing I'm doing.
Exactly.
So,
So all right, let's talk some SCCA if you got a minute here.
yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
All right. So basically, we're about to sort of play this level 5 special that features stories from Jeff Braun on all things that they did. But the predominant story is this ridiculous D Sports Racer program that they did in 2012.
Sure.
So most people know you as sort of a guy who does a ton of racing in IMSA between Continental Tire Sports Car Championship, and hopefully we'll see you back in the WeatherTech Series next year. But you do a ton of coaching in SCCA right now, but you also came up from SCCA, didn't you?
I did indeed. That's where I cut my teeth. At that time, when I was at age, SCCA was the spot, and the national runoffs were always the goal for young drivers to come up and put their stamp on hopefully a blooming career. So yeah, SCCA is certainly very dear to me since I've been very young because my father raced. Great fond memories, but a lot of support and love for the SCCA.
Okay, so tell me about what the runoffs are, but more importantly, tell me about the D Sports Racer category within it.
Yeah, sure. Well, the runoffs, what's unique about the runoffs is that it's a winner take all race, and that determines the national champion each year. So you'll drive, through the season, and depending on budgets, you'll do the minimum amount of requirements necessary, or sometimes some drivers, have bigger budgets and do lots of races to qualify for the runoffs. And you can win your points championships in your division, and then still you can come into that race as your points champion, and you don't perform in that one winner take all, and you're not going to win, where somebody that maybe was last in their division but still qualified can take the championship. One of my favorite classes has always been the D Sports Racer and the sports racers in general. I started SCCA in a Sports 2000, which is now a defunct class in the SCCA, but it put me out on the track with the D Sports Racers and the C Sports Racers and some other formula cars as well. So I'm quite well versed with all sports racers in those categories.
But basically, this is meant to be a category for people who, let's just say, don't have an IMSA budget, people who just sort of can race with what they've got. And it's sort of a high downforce, fairly affordable category. Is that correct?
Sports racers are basically your mini prototypes, right? They're just taking a look at a car, you can see where its roots are formed from. Your traditional prototype cars that race at Le Mans and beyond. Rear engined, very swoopy bodywork, which is designed for aerodynamic effect. Very lightweight. and low powered normally, but high grip.
Right. But the folks running it they are not necessarily big IMSS teams with big budgets running out professionally. Who are the kind of folks that are out there running normally?
One of the beautiful things and the things I always liked as a child about D Sports Racer is it's a very unique class in that it's not a catch-all class necessarily, but it kind of is. There's several different there's enormous amounts of chassis. I remember Decker, the Beasleys ran the Decker chassis, and there was a Tracer chassis, and some of these that were, the guys that had a little higher budget, you could tell would run up front, but at the same time, filling the field would be one-off cars where somebody was building this car from maybe a Sports 2000 chassis or a homemade chassis, putting a motorcycle base type engine in them sometimes and building it in their garage. These might be transported to the track on an open trailer with a team consisting of your best buddy and your kids. That's certainly the way my father raced. I was a crew member even though I was only 5 or 6, and my mom and my brother and my dad and I were the team.
Right. So basically, the people who are running are usually they're buying a chassis from somewhere, maybe doing something in their garage, but no one's doing any crazy development.
No, of course not. These guys were just doing this stuff on seat of the pants feel and also just on trial and error. These cars would return year after year, and each year you'd see there'd be a new little aero bit on there, or a new nose that they had created for downforce or whatnot. So yeah, a lot of just, I don't want to say low budget because there was money being spent, but not anything that even compares to how some of the newer sports racers are becoming more expensive as they've moved to carbon tubs and stuff like that for some of the cars, but it's still a class that you can come in there and run at a minimal budget and be competitive and have a shot normally at the national runoffs and then becoming a champion.
Perfect. All right. So going back to 2012 when Level 5 showed up, you and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, but more or less it seemed like it was the top guys were probably spending less than 6 figures to even get out there. Do you remember that time at all?
Yeah, I do. I remember that particular program that you guys are highlighting for sure. And I would say even with the cars, stepping up to those carbon tubs, but still you're looking at under 6-figure budgets to qualify for the runoffs and make it and have a good go. And that includes the car, by the way.
Cool. All right. I think that sets the stage pretty well. We gonna see you around next year?
Yeah, I hope so. You'll definitely see me around next year. I'm working on all that stuff and always playing the off-season game of trying to get myself out there so I can continue to showcase what I do and help teams, get results. So, I'm not done yet for sure. So I'll be out there.
Cool. All right. Well, congratulations, by the way, on the GS Championship, and hopefully we'll see you in 2016.
Great. Thanks a lot. Yeah, it was a great year for us for sure. Thanks so much, Sean. I appreciate it.
All right, man. I'll see you later.
All right. See ya. All right, thanks.
All right. So without any further ado, the Level 5 special. Enjoy. Meow. All right, we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2. But your argument is that the tools have become so good that the old days is like, let's build it up and kind of see what we got, and then we'll do some track testing or whatever aero we can get. Now,
right.
you can. It's so easy to design a car and kind of get a concept for what it's going to do and how to get there before you ever put it on track. That now it's a lot easier to get to the solution than it used to be in terms of speed and efficiency.
Let me give you. You want a story about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything could be a story.
Okay. Yeah. So Level 5, one of the projects we did at Level 5 was build a D Sports Racer.
This was the car that was like built to go win the runoffs.
Yeah,
that's right.
An SCCA race. We've got a custom program.
Right, to win the SCCA runoffs. And Scott Tucker wanted to. The real goal was they were holding the runoffs at Road America then.
Yeah.
And no SCCA club racing car had ever broken 2 minutes at Road America. The D Sports racers of that era, this was 2012, wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
We're running 201, high 201s, 202s.
So it's just within grasp.
Just there. Yeah. The Atlanta cars were 202s, 203s. C Sports Racer were about that same area. And it was a big thing. And SCCA, maybe the Chicago region, somebody came out and said, we're going to give away, I don't know, it might have just been a plaque, but something for the first guy that's going to go under 2 minutes.
$1,000.
Right,
Here's a gift certificate to Wendy's.
Right. It was probably something like that. It
Yeah.
didn't matter. Scott Tucker says, let's
want
go
this.
do that.
I need that.
Yeah.
Right. Let's go do that.
I love Wendy's.
Right. So we said,
I can get a free night at a Ramada.
right. So we said, well, I was the head technical guy. We were running LMP2 cars. We were running Porsche Cup. We were running Ferrari Challenge. We were running IMSA Lights.
Yeah.
And so why not
Right.
also go D Sports racing?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Add it in there.
So we took the car, basically took the basic car, the basic D Sports racer we had with the motorcycle engine in
Was
it.
it a store?
It was a West.
Okay, West. Yep.
We went to, we had a real strong technical working relationship with Multimatic, Canadian company who building the Ford GT, by the way.
Yeah.
So Multimatic was working with us on our vehicle dynamics and simulation program for our LMP2 cars.
For your and your D Sports racer.
So the D Sports Racer program overwhelmed the
I wonder
prototype.
why.
The real program. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I would say 80% of my time and Multimatic's time that year in 2012 was spent on the D Sports Racer program and 20% on the LMP2 cars. So we took this west.
Why?
We went to the wind shear wind tunnel for 2 days.
Right.
That's $100,000.
There you get. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Sure.
yeah,
Just
no.
just the
and
baseline
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
current car was.
2-day wind tunnel.
We went to the K&C rig. We went to the shaker rig for 2 days each. We went to the swing test where we could get moments of inertia and all that stuff on the car. We went testing with the car and built a simulation model of the car so we could run it in the simulator.
Yeah.
Multimatic has a driver in the loop simulator, which is like, for the people that don't know, it's like an iRacing simulator,
Yeah.
but it's a flight simulator
Yeah.
for race cars.
Right.
Right.
It's about a $5 million machine
Okay.
that moves the driver
Yeah, it's got the
just
whole
like he's
gyration built
moving.
in, and yeah.
And it gives, the driver drives it, and it feels very, very close to the real car.
Okay.
And the data output you get when he drives a lap is
Sort
is
of your
like a
trace,
Motec data trace.
Yeah.
Sure.
Throttle brake, then you can type on your computer, change the wing angle on your computer, and he drives another lap, and you can overlay the data. And,
Right.
and
For
so,
a D Sports racer.
right, so we built the model.
Just making sure we're still on the same page on this.
We
so.
spent maybe $250,000 to build the computer simulation model of the D Sports Racer. That was the current car.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm
No. This was one of the coolest projects I've ever been involved in.
Yeah, no.
For the runoffs.
For
the runoff.
For the SCCA
13,
runoff.
13 laps at Road
In a
America.
D Sports racer.
In 2012.
12.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we got the model built, and then we said, okay, now we need, that's a car that goes 202. 202 is not
It's
going to
not
cut
good
it.
enough.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So how do we make it better? So the engine guys started on their engine program. You could run normally aspirated 1,000cc bike motors, and a good one could put out 200 horsepower. That was about as all you could get out of one of those.
Okay.
We thought, okay, so we started our program with that in mind because we could go buy those. So we bought two from the two best engine builders at the time and just put those on the shelf. If all else fails, we can
we got-
bolt
Go back
those
to
in.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
So those sat there for 6 months. Our engine department, we had a really good guy in the shop at Level 5 who built motors. And then we got some of the best tuners. This guy, Shane Tecklenburg, who's like, nobody's ever heard of him, but
Yeah.
he's like magic when it comes to tuning motors. People
Sure.
call him up from all over the world to come and tune their motors. I mean, he flies to Dubai.
Does he specialize in motorcycles or anything?
No, anything,
Okay.
especially if they're turbocharged.
Okay.
Okay.
Especially if they're turbocharged. So,
Does he work with you on the Mazda program?
no. But
He- only D Sports
He
racers.
could, though.
if it would have gone further, he would
Yeah.
be there.
Right.
He only does D Sports racers.
Yeah, no.
He's the D Sports racer
He's-
guru.
that's what he does.
He was that year.
Right.
So you could run 1,000cc normally aspirated, or you could run, the rule said, 670cc. I don't know how that was picked. Turbocharged motors.
Okay.
So we
Yeah.
looked through the rules,
So here's the
and we're
here's
like,
the flaw.
turbocharged, 670cc's. I don't know why you would do that. Well, we started investigating. We got Shane in on the deal. Shane, what do you think about a 670 turbo motor? And he's like, yeah. What do you think we could make for horsepower? I don't know. Conservatively, 300. Like 300 horsepower? It's like, yeah, I think we could do that.
What does 670 plus a turbo actually equal out in CCs?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know,
yeah,
like that's the question,
Big,
right?
yeah.
big. Because there were no boost limits, there were no restrictor
Yep,
there were
yep.
no restrictor sizes.
I mean,
there
and
were
you've-
none of that.
Oh, say no more.
I mean,
Right.
you've come this far, so
Right. And the reason nobody had done it is because that would be expensive. These are club racers. These are like a guy and his wife who
they're guys who can run D sports racers.
right,
Yeah,
with a motorcycle engine in it, do
Yeah.
it 5 times a year, qualify the runoffs,
Yeah.
take their 2 weeks of vacation that they have
Right.
and go to the runoffs with them and their wife and
Yep.
their cardboard shoebox with their tools and their duct
Yep.
tape in it
Right.
and go. And I'm not that's what
Not a lot of time for the wind tunnel with that schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
right. And that's what SCCA racing should
Did-
be.
Did their
And
CFD run on Windows 95?
yeah. right.
It's an app on your iPhone. Yeah.
So so we start
Blows
looking at
my
this thing.
mind.
The short story on the motor is 675 turbo was going to be the way to go. We
Sure.
started developing that with Shane. Ultimate end of the process after exploding many
Sure.
and working on some stuff, it would make 350. yeah.
How heavy is this car?
Well, so
Oh,
it's
it starts with a well. by
yeah,
the
yeah.
way. 50 pounds.
It's 1,100 pounds with the driver in it.
Oh wow. Yeah. That is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the test driver was Colin.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
We got Colin because he had been doing all of when Scott Tucker did the IMSA lights. Colin would drive his IMSA lights car
Sure.
on the promoters day,
That's
set
right.
it up for him,
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
then
Yeah,
Tucker
here you
would
go.
drive it because
Yeah.
Scott didn't want to be bothered with setting the car
Well,
up.
why
He
would
just
you? Yeah.
Wanted a fast one and
Sure.
get in it and go.
Yeah.
So Colin was the test driver there. We got him on this program. So we did. The first thing we looked at was the body work. We had the car up at Multimatic. We laser scanned the whole body, so we had a computer picture of the body. Then we put that in CFD, and we ran 22 days with 44 computers running CFD for 22 straight days of computing power.
So I just want to confirm this
Yeah,
for a D sports racer.
to win the runoffs.
Yes.
Yes.
To win the SEC
To win a medal.
runoff.
A 13
Yeah.
race, 13 lap race.
13 lap race.
Right.
44 computers.
Right.
Yeah.
CFD, 22
sense.
days worth of CFD. And a guy that a lot of people heard of, our head aerodynamicist was Mark Hanford.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Hanford
Familiar.
device, which
Sure.
he claims is the worst thing to ever be associated with because it slowed race cars down.
Right.
But Mark Hanford is about as good as it gets from an aerodynamic
Why not just bring in
standpoint.
Adrian Newey?
He
was busy.
He might
Yeah.
be busy doing something
Yeah.
else.
Okay.
Conflicts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did the whole CFD thing, figured out the body work we wanted. Then we worked on the suspension. We ended up using Multimatic, which owns Dynamic Suspension,
Mhm.
does a lot of Formula One dampers
Yeah.
for unnamed World
Sure.
Championship level teams sponsored by a sugary energy drink.
It's November 18th by the time people are hearing this, so we don't even know if they'll still be there.
Right, they might not. But at the time, them and some other guys. So anyway, we ended up with Formula One shocks on the car.
Sure.
We ended up with, we started out, we came up with 4 different potential suspension designs and about 3 different potential aerodynamic designs. So in the old days, you would go and build all of those.
Right.
Well, you couldn't afford to. You just have to guess. And you'd build one and that's what you have.
Yeah. Well, usually you have a budget to run D sports racers.
Right.
Right.
So what we did is we had the simulation model. We went to Multimatic and with Colin
Yeah.
for about 3 days. Me and him and the Multimatic engineers sat there and we started out with design number 1, suspension 1 with body 1, with engine 1.
Right.
And Colin would drive. And we optimized that for
Yeah.
2 hours. And then we go, okay, let's put suspension 2 on the car. Type in a computer, boom, suspension 2 on the car, and he'd drive that for 2 hours. Then body this with suspension this with engine this, around for 3 days, coming up with all the different combinations of what we wanted. And then we said, okay, now we have the car that we think is the best in the simulator. Now we went and built that car. That car only existed virtually.
Yeah.
And then we went and actually built that car. Did the frame, did the suspension, built the molds, built the body. And then we went testing. We rented Road America 4 times, 3 days each, private test. Road America is very expensive, but
Yeah,
anyway.
it is very pricey.
Yeah. So it was just us.
12 days
12 days
of private testing.
of private testing plus 3 days at Putnam Park before that to shake it down. Yeah.
What was the budget for this?
There wasn't one.
Right.
Yeah, no,
it wasn't.
that's clear.
Yeah.
You've made that very clear.
No.
So the lap time that you wanted to eclipse was a 2-minute flat, and the average guy was doing 202s. Was that what you were saying?
202s.
Okay.
The top 2 guys were 202s, and the rest of the pack was 204s.
So what did Colin do on the car?
His best lap was a 152.8. Would have put him that year. Would have put him 4/10 off the Muscle Milk P1 car and ahead of the Dyson P1 car.
No way.
Yep.
I believe this.
Oh my god.
And ahead of all the P2s, and I mean, he would have literally qualified second for the IMSA race, 4/10 off the Muscle Milk car and Klaus Graf. Yeah.
So, but to me, did Scott win?
Okay. So
There's an okay.
I mean, so
No.
Colin, yes.
So Colin's
move
doing all
on.
this testing, and to get to that point,
Yeah,
we blew up a lot of motors,
sure.
and we had to figure out
To not do
what
this.
level of
Yeah.
horsepower we could run and how long, and we only needed to make it last 13 laps, and it was definitely 13 laps. We had only completed, with Colin driving, 1 successful 13-lap run in those 12 days of testing.
Okay.
We worked out the,
And could you swap? I don't know the SEC rules. Could you swap out between practices and?
Oh, yeah.
stuff? Oh yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm assuming if you're allowed to build your own
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything.
Well, I'm just saying
Right.
it's hard to regulate CFD time
Right.
at
We had-
SCCA club, but it's when you're physically on site, it's easier to see if somebody's swapping out an engine.
Right. Well, we had, and of course we built we built 2 of these cars.
Of course you did. I knew that was coming.
So we had what we
Why
called the
only
mule.
one?
We had what we called the mule, which was
Oh,
the test car,
yeah.
and then we had what became known as the Bronco, which was going to be the lightweight race car.
That's the one.
So we had both of those. So we had a backup car, and you don't in SCCA you don't even have to use the same car. You could qualify on one car and race
Swap. Yeah,
the other
Oh,
car.
Okay.
So we had that backed up, and we had 4 more turbo motors amongst, and plus 1 in each car. So we had 6 of these turbo motors lined up if we needed them. And so we'd only done 1 13-lap run, but we had figured out we'd taken our 13 laps, added up the total time, taken the 13 laps on the fastest D-Sports racer runoffs ever at Road America, added that up, and Colin would win by nearly 2 laps, about 1.7 laps in 13 laps. So we're like, okay,
Job well done,
we're
guys.
good. We're good.
Was there any hesitation? Was like,
Maybe this is a little too far. Like
No.
no one ever. At no point, no one went.
No.
this is the D Sports Racer project, right?
Right.
Did I walk into the wrong meeting?
Right.
Yeah.
So we, on literally the last day of our testing, Scott Tucker flew up. He had never driven the car. He flew up to Road America. And Colin, that's when he had run his 151.8 or whatever it was that he
Sure.
had done.
Going for the champ car pole.
Yeah.
Oh, we also hold the out-and-out lap record at Calabogie. I forgot we did 3 days at Calabogie.
Wow.
Canada.
That is a crazy
Out-and-out
track.
lap record.
I believe that. Yeah.
Nobody, nothing's ever
Yeah.
gone faster
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
Larry Holt even called and said, hey, the Ford GT was up there, and Colin's still 4 seconds faster than that.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, but now we know how fast the Ford GT goes around there.
Yeah.
So anyway, Scott gets in the car, goes out, does like 4 laps, comes in, and he is, and remember, this is a current LMP2 driver and
Yeah.
been to Le Mans. So, I
Right.
mean, okay, he's
And,
not a,
and he picked it up a lot. He got really good in a P2 car for a guy that doesn't do it for a living.
Yes.
He got to be very fast.
yes. So he's one of the better silver drivers,
Sure.
true gentleman silver drivers
sure.
in the world at the time. He gets in this car, does 4 laps, comes in and goes, he did like a 58 or something like that, a 158, says, whew, I'm good. That thing is too scary. That's it. I'm happy. I'm going home. It's good. I understand what I got. That's good. I don't want to go any faster in that car. It's just done.
Yeah.
So that ends. We come back for the runoffs. and he qualifies at like a 58.6 or something like that, maybe a low 58 or something like that. Everybody's like, whoa, like 4 seconds faster than everybody else.
right.
Amazing. Start out the race, and to really get the official 2-minute thing, it had to happen in the race to get the Wendy's certificate or whatever it was. Yeah. You had to do it in the race. So it starts misting at the start of the race.
No.
And so the first lap, we come up the hill and he gasses it. And there's a picture of him going into turn 1. And he must have a 30 car length lead already.
Well,
all he had to do was gas it.
Yeah.
And like his second lap, he ran a 58.2 or something like that. Job well done. Now we got to do 11 more laps or whatever it was. And he goes around and around and around. I think he lapped everybody except second and third. And it lasted 13 laps and we won.
I'm shocked.
That car would
Really? He did it?
He did it.
He managed to pull it off.
Pulled it off.
Yeah.
Got his medal.
Finally won the runoffs.
Yeah.
Got his medal. And so that car, some statistics on that thing. That thing was 189 miles an hour into turn 1, into turn 5, and into Canada Corner.
I was just there.
That's scary in a car like that.
I was just there in our TLX GT3 car, and that's quite a bit faster than we're going, and we're one of the fastest cars in a straight line.
Yeah.
That is cranking.
That's scary.
A P2 car is 168.
Right.
At those races, and we were 189. In a tube frame car. It's not a carbon tub.
Yeah.
A tube frame car that weighs 900 pounds.
Yeah.
The thing would go, we obviously had our LMP2 data for that.
Yeah.
You'll appreciate this, Ryan, from turn 8, it's flat, literally flat, from 8 to Canada Corner.
I was wondering that if it was flat to the carousel. If you could just mat it the whole way.
Min corner speed in the kink, 172.
Oh, God, that's so fast.
That is higher than the top speed of a P2 car.
Right.
Yeah.
That is is there in-car of this thing?
Yes.
Like, I would love to see that video of Colin wringing the neck out of the thing, because
it might be actually on my Facebook page. Got to look for it. I
Yeah.
think that video might still be there on my Facebook page.
I don't know if you can legally answer that, but where's that car now?
I was just going to say that.
So that car has now been sold to somebody in Australia.
Huh.
I don't know what they're doing with it.
It's been destroyed, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't
Somebody
run
off
that
of
car.
US property, but
So we show up at the. This even makes it worse. We show up on the grid, and it was this kind of misty kind of thing. So we show up at, you know how the grid at Road America works, or at that false grid kind of on the end of the pits there. So we're up on the grid, and I'm standing in front of the car with my headset on to be able to talk to the guys.
Yeah.
And the other people start filing in, and it's
you're probably the easiest team to find because you're the teams with the headsets.
Right.
Yeah.
Radios.
So,
Maybe even umbrellas at this point.
Exactly.
So our cars
Were there tire models?
our car is up on the jacks with no tires on it to the side, because the rule said that you can't have tire warmers on the grid.
At the SCCA Nationals.
So I'm like, well, there's that chain link fence. That's not the grid.
There's the rule about 10 feet over there.
Yeah.
Right. So we had 3 Honda generators.
There you go.
With 3 sets of tires in the tire warmer blankets, a set of rains, a set of intermediates, and a set of dries.
Yes.
Do they have intermediates for the
At the SCCA Nationals?
for D-Spec race?
We did.
Yeah, they have
We did. So we had all 3 sets
all 3
sitting there.
because you just never can be too prepared.
Things up on jacks. The engine guys plugged in to the car. Colin Mason, our data guys, plugged into the car. So you couldn't start it without the computers plugged in.
Which is a D-Sports racer thing. Yeah.
Right, so that a guy and his wife could go put it in their trailer and take it out and go run.
Yeah, right.
You literally couldn't start it, and you can't shut it down. That's even harder to shut it down, because if you just shut it off, the engine
Just making too much power, just blow
the
through
turbo bearings freeze and
Yeah.
the something else melts, and I don't remember. But you have to shut the turbo down at the right speed. You have to circulate the water pump and pulse the water pump the correct way. We had an electric water pump that was controlled by the computer, and you had to pulse it the right way and shut this thing down it's about a 5-minute process to shut the engine off. So anyway, we have all these guys plugged into it, and we have all of our mechanics, and they're all sitting there ready, and we had practiced the tire change over the fence before in the shop, and how we were going to do this.
That makes
Of course
sense
you
for your
did.
13-lap race.
And
Yeah.
we're timing, the 5-minute gun, the 3-minute gun, and at the 2-minute gun, you have to clear the grid. So at 2 minutes, we have to be done. So we had timed it so that the last poof happens with 2 minutes and 1 second to go, and then we jump away.
This is for the SCCA runoffs where a guy's probably looking at his phone and going, "Yeah, you got about a minute, guys."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the official timing.
Right. So all these other guys pull up with their, the guy drives up with his balaclava on and his helmet sitting on the side pod, and his wife comes up and gives him a kiss, and they get in and they get ready to go. And that's all these guys lined up behind us. And here we are, and I'm looking at this thing going, this is not what this should be about. This is not at all.
You think?
Right.
I like that it got to that point.
Like, that's the moment.
Right. I'm like,
how many months into this? How many months did you start building this car ahead?
it was an 8-month program.
right.
So like
8 months in.
because like when you commissioned Computer 43,
Right. Right.
you didn't think maybe we've gone too far with
No,
this.
because this was when somebody like Scott Tucker
Yeah.
gives you a job
Free
and
rein.
says, "Go do this.
Yeah.
I want to do this." You do it 100% the best of your ability.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% agree.
And we
Well-
all did that. And then we got there.
Thank you.
And I've been to the runoffs. I know what that's all about. And I'm sitting there.
I got it.
But then it dawned on me that this was not, that we had done a good job, but this was not
Yeah, you
fair.
did.
This
Right.
was not. And there were some of the D Sports Racer competitors I thought this was pretty cool. Some of those guys were genuinely mad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No question.
This
is all they
ruining
do.
our whole
Yeah.
season.
This is their 2 weekends
Yeah.
of vacation they get for the year.
And out of the 20 guys in that class, 5 of them were mad.
20 cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 of them were
I am
mad.
surprised it was only 5. by
And
the way.
15 of them thought it was the most awesome thing they'd ever seen.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
those were the
whoa,
15 who knew they
this
weren't
is-
going to win. So what
Right.
do they care?
They
Yeah,
were
yeah.
probably the guys that before Scott got there were finishing, 5th through last.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So anyway, we start the thing, and it's boom, go, tire warmers off, choreograph the whole thing, and I count, and I'm counting 12 guys on our team, plus Scott in the car, me 13, our team manager David Stone, and our crew chief Ken Swan, who don't count. So there's like 15 of us,
Right.
and
For a
there's
D Sports race.
the next biggest team has like 2
Yeah.
Sure.
guys and the guy in the car, a wife and his buddy and the guy, the driver. And so we drop the car, start up, go, and we win.
Right.
And we finish 13 laps, and it's all good. And then the car goes to Australia. And I have no idea. You could not run that car.
Right.
with-
It's not a car that you can just have in your garage and be like, we're going to go do the
Yeah.
weekend at Bathurst.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not an
No.
option.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, this is going to ruin the class. And now everybody's going to have one of these cars. And I'm like,
No.
Nobody could have one of these cars.
That's adorable,
It's
guys.
impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So was that just the culture of level 5?
Yes.
Just like go, make it happen.
I know that we're way over time here,
That's fine.
but I don't care. 'cause
Yeah, 'cause
this
this
is
is
a
awesome.
two-parter for
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
I've heard the similar story, not necessarily the result side of it. Well, there's a funny result side story, but I want to hear your version of it. Wasn't there a 996 Cup car that was also built? And I was told it was like the $1 million Cup car.
So that was a parallel program.
So there's 2 at once.
we had 88 CFD computers running at once.
No, this one actually it started in 2011, and we called it the Hurricane. It was a Porsche Cup car. Well, it was a Porsche.
Right.
It was a 4-wheel drive Porsche.
Okay.
And I don't remember. There's a number for it. I can't remember all these Porsche numbers. But anyway, it was that was to win the runoffs too.
I think it was a 996, right? Because they had
Right.
a GTS 911, which
Right.
was all-wheel drive.
Right. So it was a 996 with a 4-wheel drive, and we were going to try to win. I don't remember the class. It wasn't GT3 because that's a Cup car.
Right.
It was an SCCA class it fit into.
Sure. SP something.
Right. So in 2011, we ran the Hurricane in that class, and we ran a Ferrari Challenge car, heavily modified in another class, T1 or something. They had a class. For
I like
that
that you clarified that it was heavily modified.
Oh yeah, it was like
in case we didn't think it was.
the damper program was out the wazoo. I mean, it was like Penske's, we had PFC brakes on it. We had Derek Dong, and we did full brake development. This is on the Ferrari. That was just a minor program.
Oh, yeah, it's pathetic.
But on the Hurricane, so it was 4-wheel drive. This turbo motor made, I don't know how much horsepower. Pat Long came. He was our test driver.
Yep. Well, of course, you're going to get a factory Porsche driver.
That's what we wanted.
Got to have.
We
That's
figured,
what we wanted.
So we got Pat to come and drive, and Pat just and it's on a street tire.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Pat
For budget.
No,
that's the rule.
By the rule.
By
Yeah.
the rules.
Yeah.
Right. No, I
Oh,
understand.
right. For the budget
yeah,
of the
yeah, the series said street tires
of the mom and pop
so that
guy
we can
running
be
a
cost
car.
efficient here at SCCA
Right.
Club.
I know it made over 750 horsepower on the chassis dyno at level 5. And we had a 4-wheel drive chassis dyno, so we could.
So you had to go get that, right?
No,
You already had one?
it was, yeah. The team bought when we bought a chassis dyno. We bought a 4-wheel drive one because
No, you never know.
we
Well,
never
and
knew.
just in case, you probably had to buy 2.
It came in. No, we only had one.
Oh, cheap.
Yeah. No.
Cheap bastards.
And so we developed that car. That car had some really cool dampers on it. It had G valves. You'll appreciate this. So it had it from Multimatic and Dynamic. Picture a damper that you can change the valving based on the G forces. So the car goes on the brakes.
Right.
Porsches are really bad for diving on the
Yep.
brakes, right? And then the rear coming up being loose and
Sure.
real unstable getting in. So we use these G valves is what they're called on these really trick dampers where picture a pendulum
Mm-hmm.
and a hole here and a hole here where fluid can go through.
Right.
So when the pendulum's sitting here, your rebound circuit, the fluid's flowing just around this pendulum, and the rebound is normal, whatever you have your normal setting for.
Right.
When you put the brakes on, the pendulum goes forward, plugs up one of the holes, and now your rebound valving goes higher because the bleed hole is plugged up.
Sure.
So you put that on the rear for rebound.
Right.
So when the G-forces come in, it holds the rear down. You put it on the front on the bump circuit. So when the G-forces come in, it stiffens
it
the
up.
bump.
Yeah.
But once you get off, once the G-forces, the braking forces reduce, and you're in the middle of the corner, now you have your nice soft shocks back again. So you don't have this really stiff rear rebound and really stiff front bump.
So it's sort of like a mechanically designed active.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is this similar to an inverter? Didn't they have those in? They outlawed them, I think, in either was it still Grand Am or it might have just been
I
into
don't
the first
Yeah,
year?
they're outlawed. It's a different. The Nerder's completely different.
Okay.
Inverters we did run on the D Sports Racer. That was
Yeah.
yeah, that was a Formula One kind of thing, and Nerders are pretty cool. You run them as a third element. We ran 6 shocks on the D Sports Racer, and
Yeah, six.
Yeah.
Six.
Six.
Yeah,
Six.
six. Well, there's probably no rule for that.
one
so.
for each corner, and then the
Well, you
center.
do
can't
center
have
in the
too
middle,
many,
yeah, you gotta have 'em.
I'm surprised it was that few.
Yeah, yeah. That I'm thinking about that. That was pretty cool. So anyway, the Hurricane, Pat Long was like, this is the most ridiculous Porsche he's ever driven, and he's driven just about
Right,
every Porsche there was. So we did win the runoffs that year with that car and with the Ferrari Challenge modified car. Then the next year we came back with the D Sports Racer and the uprated Hurricane,
Right.
which had bigger intercoolers, and I can't remember what else we did to that. And we had so that was kind of a parallel program along with the D Sports Racer.
Did he win it the second year? Because I heard he lost one of them to
He
a
did
Viper.
not win. He lost in. So we also raced GT3 the second.
Mhm.
No, we raced T1 again with a Ferrari Challenge car, and that's where we lost to a Viper.
Okay.
On the
Yeah.
last lap going
Right.
into Canada corner,
Yeah.
the Viper got him.
Yeah.
The Hurricane, the second year, got a flat tire. We pitted, and
That's it, yeah.
you don't win a race
Still
like
finished
that.
second, but
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever. And yeah, I think that's how that all turned out.
From a engineering standpoint, that has to be one of the most fun programs you've ever been on, because the you're going to find something. You only had to find 2 seconds. You guys found like 12 or something
Right.
ridiculous. Sorry, 8.
Right.
Only
Come
8
on.
at Road
Right.
America.
Please.
Yeah.
Let's not give him too much credit.
And the pressure's not really there because you know you're gonna figure something out. Even if you only found 3 seconds, that'd be a huge win for him.
Right.
And the reality is that Colin probably could have gotten the West as it was and done a 59.
Probably
Yeah.
because the guys he's racing against are like the best guys at that time were guys who race IMSA lights now.
Right.
Not kids either.
Right.
They're older guys.
Yeah,
so
sure.
yeah, he probably could have.
So really, it's like, okay, let's see how far we can take this since budget's no problem and we're all pretty sharp at what we do. That's why we have this job.
Right.
So it had to be like, even though it wasn't a serious thing, like it's not Daytona 24-hour or anything like that, but because you can now be creative and push yourself into places that you can't in other series, because no way they'd say, yeah, do whatever you want. Like the tire warmer thing. I can't believe somebody didn't walk over and be like, really?
Come on. Yeah.
Well,
it's not on the track.
Yeah. Like,
Right.
no.
No. Well, and that's the thing. When we called up, Mark Hanford worked for Multimatic, and so when we called Mark and said, hey, we got this D-Sports racer, and we want you to be involved.
And he said, what's
like,
a D-Sports racer?
Yeah, I know.
Right. And he's
That-
like, he was like, I don't really.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I'm not.
And then I said, Mark, let me send you the rule book. And so I sent him the rule book, which is literally 1.5 pages. That's it. That's the whole rule book. And I said, and he called me back up and he goes,
Such a playground.
okay, I think your PDF got truncated. I only got 1.5 pages of the rules. I said, that's the rules.
This is why I called you.
He goes, really? We can build a car based on these rules? He said, heck yeah, I'm in. He said, I haven't done anything like this in 20 years. There's
Right.
no class like this that exists today in motorsports. And so that's what got everybody charged up.
Yeah.
The engine guys, the vehicle dynamics guys, the simulation guys, Mark Hanford, the aero guy. I mean, they were just thrilled to be able to do a project like this. So was I. And I mean, that in all the projects I've done, that's probably the least known, but the coolest thing I've ever done.
Right.
And the way, like you said, John, of the culture at level 5,
Yeah.
it wasn't. A lot of people think it was this. Oh, just spend millions of dollars on everything and just beat them that way. That wasn't the way it went. It was, we're going to do everything we can within the rules, not cut any corners, invent new ways of doing things better that nobody else has. And yeah, that costs money.
Right.
But it wasn't like it went from, here's a lot of money, let's try to win. It
Right.
was like, how do we win? Oh, that costs a lot of money? Okay, we'll spend that.
Right.
Right.
So it wasn't, the culture there was never any small detail that could be better was overlooked.
Right. It's not uncommon for guys who, and I have to be fair. I don't know how deep Scott's history went before sort of level 5 really grew. I mean, I met him a couple times when he drove for TRG and whatnot, but it's not uncommon for a guy who's fairly new to motorsports and has the means to really spend big to come in and say, I want to do it bigger and better, and I'm willing to dump what I can into it, and let's be new. And then he gets the first bill and goes, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
I didn't mean that big.
Right.
But you had 44 computers running at once. Did he ever step up and go,
No. No. I mean, and it was, the key to it is that we were getting the results on every
Right.
program that he wanted. If we weren't getting the results that he wanted,
Sure.
and he wasn't naive enough to think we should win every race and
Right.
all of that, but if we weren't getting the results that he wanted, there would have been hell to pay.
Yeah.
yeah,
But we had a really good team of guys. I mean, there were, I don't know, I'm going to say at any one time there were probably 40 of us all together when we were
but
running
that's for
more.
the whole program, all the
Right,
various
everything going on.
avenues, yeah.
And when we were running more cars, we probably peaked at 50. Like at Road America one year, we ran an LMP2 car. We ran 2 LMP2 cars, an IMSA Lights car, a Porsche Cup car, a Ferrari. Oh, the Trans Am was with us that weekend. We ran a Ferrari Trans Am car in G Trans Am 2 or whatever they had. We
Right.
ran 5 cars that weekend. And that's
Right.
just kind of what we did.
And I mean, even just the presentation of that team, you would walk by and they'd have, glass partition or Lexamplex, everything looked like a museum, just looked like. And, the lazy in me, being a useless PR guy, would see that and go, oh, that looks like a lot of work to set up. Thank God I'm not there.
It was horrible to set up.
Yeah.
It was, you had to have a forklift, so we had to have a truck with all the equipment in it and a forklift.
And a forklift.
in it.
Yeah.
You just get one somewhere.
Boy, it was cool though.
No doubt.
And so that was, kind of back to those kind of guys. A lot of people, most of the people I think that didn't like level 5, a lot of it was jealousy. They were like, wow, that'd be cool. All of our mechanic friends and engineer friends and everything all would love to
like,
have
oh,
worked there.
screw you guys. Here's a resume.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
They all wanted to work there. And the cool thing about it was we had a great group of people. I mean, it worked really well together. David Stone, who just passed away not long ago,
Yeah.
was a guy who his best thing was able to put the right people together. And then he pretty much got out of the way.
Right.
It was a guy by the name of Ken Swan and myself and a few, our top crew chief guy, and we pretty much got to do what we did. If we could justify it to David, Scott would buy into it.
Right.
And that was that.
And as long as we got the results, again, it was one of those scary programs, a lot like Team Scandia.
Yeah.
If we didn't win
Yeah.
4 championships in a row and 4 Sebrings and 4 Petite Le Mans, and we were all a little nervous. We went to Le Mans for our first time and only finished 3rd. We're like,
Oh,
Right.
heads will roll.
right, we didn't win. This
Yeah.
is not good.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there were things like he just did what every race team wishes they could do.
Yeah.
We bought our
absolutely.
Lola LMP2 cars, 3 of them. Went to Sebring, ran them there. They seemed pretty good. Went to another race. Ooh, not what we needed. Went to Spa and Imola. Whew, these cars aren't competitive against the HPDs and the current Oricas. Ooh, bad. Okay, middle of the season, dump those. Let's buy 2 Acuras. Actually Honda, the HPDs.
HPDs.
Let's buy 2 HPDs in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Bought 2 HPDs and switched. So we bought 5 LMP2 cars in 1 year.
I
And
remember that.
scrapped 3 of them.
Right.
Well, scrapped. Put them in
Yeah.
aside.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was only because he wanted to win.
Yeah.
And that was a better way to win.
How was Scott to work with?
Great.
Was he?
Great. He was, again, a lot like Andy Evans. For me, anyway. Again, to me personally, when you make your living doing this, the first thing you want to do is get paid and paid on time.
Right. Yep.
That was never a question.
Awesome.
You want to be able to have the ability to do things what you think is the right way. And I could do, if I decided that we needed 45 computers on the CFD thing, we'd have 45.
Right.
Yeah.
If, whatever we needed. And put together the right people, never micromanaged. I want to understand it. He's really smart. Again, like Andy Evans, smart, just one of those incredibly smart guys that you can go, yeah, okay, I can see why these guys are successful.
Why they do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But smart enough not to think that because they're a really good businessman, they should know how to run a race team.
Yeah. Know
That
where
is
their limitations
The
are.
most key thing I've heard in a while, because very often I come up against guys that have either come into some money or built a little bit of a business up and done okay for themselves, that then think I'm going to start a race team, and because I'm successful at business, whatever it may be, I'll be successful at this too. And it's just not their element, it's not their game, and then they fail or lose a lot of money or whatever it is.
Well, and the flip side of that is I think a lot of people come in realizing they have to sort of put the right people in charge, but maybe they don't put the right people in charge.
Yeah, right.
And so that sort of being a good judge of character and knowing who's BSing you and who actually knows their stuff, and having the wherewithal to dig deep enough into their background and say, okay, this really is my guy.
Right. And that's what he could do. And Scott, there were times when I first started working there, and we were building this team.
Right.
I mean, we started out, it had been a Ferrari Challenge team. And then when he started to do his decided to do his own team, it was when we did LMPC in 2010, which was the first year at LMPC. And that's when we really started building the team that turned out to be the level 5 team for the next 4 years. When he first started out, I didn't know how he operated, and there was like, I remember one time going to Scott and saying, Scott, you know, that guy we have in whatever position, he's really not a top guy. He's good, but we can get this other guy, and he's the top guy. He's the crew chief or whatever we need to really run this car. Scott would be like, look, I remember he told me, he goes, Jeff, I have a real job. I have a normal job that I do. I don't want another business. I don't want a race team. I want to race. I want to drive. I want to win races. That's why David Stone works for me. You and David work that out.
Right.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, that's the best way.
I'm going to come here and I'm going to drive my cars, but I don't need another business. I have however many I have. I have 6 of them already, or whatever.
This is his vacation.
Right.
Yeah, this is his time to relax, not time to work again. Yeah.
So he was a great, again, for me personally, a great guy to work for. And I, you know, a lot of people's, you know, oh, he's a criminal and all of that. You know, to me, again, other people may disagree, but nothing he was doing in business was illegal until January of 14, when the Federal Trade Commission made it illegal, and that's when he stopped, and that's when he shut down his race team.
Right. So on that point, we've all seen how quickly race teams can go away. You think you've got a job, and literally the next day they're padlocked. Obviously, there had been a few years where Scott had been under some fire from different governments and whatnot on his business practices. You guys had to keep an eye on that because you had to have that in the back of your mind. This could go away tomorrow. What did that change the atmosphere at all?
I would say, you know, we'd see the reports.
Right.
And then you'd hear, you know, something bad would come down. Oh, the FTC or the whatever, the Federal Trade Commission is investigating Scott.
Yep.
You're like, ooh, that can't be good.
Nope.
Right.
And then you'd see, okay, David Stone, the shop was in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Scott lived in Kansas. Then you'd see, hey, you know, because I'm in constant contact with David all the time. Hey, I'm flying to Kansas. Fly to Kansas, come back. Okay, we're still racing.
Right. And that's
all
what
that mattered.
Yeah.
We're still racing. And it was never, you know, and that happened a couple, 3 times, and then we just stopped worrying about it.
Yeah.
You know, we're
you
racing.
Just can't, right.
And it might, we knew, like you do with every team like that, with a successful business owner, they're not going to do that. I mean, Dyson is a rarity to do it for 25 or 30 years or whatever they're doing it. You know, you get guys, really good guys like Bob Stallings.
Right.
You can't. They're not going to do that forever. And nobody in racing thinks that, oh, I'm going to be at level 5 for 20 years.
Right.
No. But you go, man, this is a group of guys getting to do things like this D Sports Racer project or LMP2 and go to Le Mans and do all the things we did. And you just ride that wave because this is so awesome that even if it did end tomorrow, the past is so awesome that you'll figure something else out.
I'm finished.
So there you have it, the special edition Level 5 stories. There is simply no way to do that story justice secondhand. That has to come from Jeff Brown's mouth, kind of explaining that whole scenario. So we just can't give Jeff Brown enough credit for the entirety of that dinner because he was so candid and so funny and just gave us so much to work with. Anyway, so closing out this very special Level 5 edition, we want to introduce you to a band called the Agrolights, and they are also available on iTunes. Once again, that is Agrolights, and we've got a song called Well Runs Dry. Enjoy.
Resort.